Hello and welcome back to Transports Fever Series 2, the Great Lakes. Last time out we were looking at a little bit in Indianapolis. We took a look at a very little bit in St. Louis, but the majority of our work was covered here in Naperville and Chicago and the surrounding area, Milwaukee, Rockford and Madison. And we were looking at improving the roadways and any routes that we could for the freight to ensure that we have a much better setup. So you can see we created this road that runs all the way along into Milwaukee from this side. We created this road that goes all the way across, so that's going to help us get freight in and out. And as you can see, it's going to clear up, and we did actually check how this pans out, and it does clear up all of this traffic, so it really does work. Now obviously we've rolled back to the 9th of March 1979. As I said, we're going to continue doing. That's actually a really good screenshot. I didn't even realize that we've got an opportunity like that. Going to definitely take some photos in or screenshots in this video, this episode. But anyway, we're not going to be looking at this at all today. We are going to move across for this episode and the next episode over here to Toronto. Now, Toronto is going to become the hub, not just for supplying goods to Toronto, but also to supply goods to Ottawa and supplying goods to Buffalo. In the meantime, Sault Ste. Marie is going to be supplying goods eventually to Sudbury, but this is the one that we are looking at today. Now, in order for this to work, we've obviously got a line coming in from Detroit, but we could, in theory, have lines coming in from Philadelphia, from this area here in Washington, especially fuel. Fuel would be really good over here. So what we're going to do is we are going to ensure that we have a line connected out of here, running alongside this. I'm not sure how we're going to pan it through this, but we're going to see if we can make it do something fancy through this, and then we're going to join it up to this. So make sure you stay tuned for the rest of this episode and probably the next episode for that. Okay, so I think the best place for us to start is going to be right over here. I think this is a really good place to start. We've got 3 free lines. Admittedly, they're not completely free. As you can see, one of them is used by the oil train, but that gives us, let's say, 2 free lines. Those 2, but we can connect up all 3, perhaps even the 4th, because the 4th is not. Yeah, the 4th one's not doing anything either. So we have 4 free lines in theory, 5 free lines in theory. Actually, looking at that, so 5 free lines is what we've got that we can peel off towards Toronto. Now, I think realistically, given the length of this route, we're only going to need 2 lines with 600-meter trains, because we are going to be running full-size trains through this, similar to how we have full-size trains running through this area, although that's on this side. But we have full-size trains, for example, and by full-size I mean 600 meters. As I say that, the train that I want is nowhere to be found. There it is. There's one of our... That's not a 600-meter train, is it? Yes, it is. That's a 600-meter train. There you go. So we've got a 600-meter train that runs out of here, but it does run alongside the main line for a fair amount of time. As you can see, past or through the station in Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne, by the way, is doing something really, really awkward that I didn't want it to do. However, I'm going to leave it and let it do what it feels like it wants to do. At least for now. So, we need to figure out how to do that. Now, my first option is going to be to increase this to 6 platforms, like so, and then run the trains through those platforms. But we're going to run into this issue. So we're going to have crossings, and also that's going to be a really tight corner. So I'm not sure how we can go about doing this. It's definitely going to be a much harder, it's going to be much more difficult than maybe we first thought. But the first thing we need to do is get the track out of this area. So let's go ahead and figure that one out. So let's get some track running. Now I'm thinking if we can join... No, these have got to stay as 4, I think. So if we do, for example, I think if we do that, and then we will pretty much... In fact, I tell you what, this is probably going to be the best way to do this. Okay. That one there looks like the reasonable one. Barring that 35-mile-an-hour corner, we can probably cut it back a smidge. There we go. Cut it back, and 54 miles per hour. No, not my idea of a good corner. Although by this time I assume it's going to be slowing down rather significantly. So I suppose we can do that. And in fact, now that we've got the flat, we can just... Yeah, we can just keep it flat. There we go. That's essentially what I wanted to do. I just wanted to keep it flat. So let's do that. And run that. I said I wanted to keep it flat and I haven't kept it flat. Never mind. Right. Now, how are we going to get this going upwards towards these lines? Do we cross them here? Do we try and hook them up from this point straight and then bury them straight into the ground and make them... Let's see. For example, let's say I was going to do this. Let's say I was going to do that. Where does it want to go? Astoundingly, it actually wants to make a crossing on the bridge. Ooh. That's not ideal. I mean, it's really strange that it wants to cross it. That's a really horrible crossing too. I need it down there. That's where I want it. That is where I want it. That's where I need it. Okay. I think it's possible though. It's not slow. It's going to be downhill all the way or uphill depending on which way you're going. I think this is possible. So what we should do is let's run this along. And right, how are we going to do this? Is that going to get right? The important part is, does it get underneath? It does. It's a little close, but it does get underneath. Okay. So what if I were to ensure that this goes down like that? That's it. Keep it going down like that. Ooh, don't do that. Curve it slightly to be that way. There we go. Then we'll run this along there. And now let's try and figure out what would happen if we were to attempt this again. Okay, we're coming up with a whole new set of terrain alignment collisions. Although with the shift, it does sort of fit. That's a really, really worrying. Okay. But you know what we could do? If that's going to work, and because that's going to work, I think we can do this. Nope. Let's do... Right, maybe not that steep. Don't be silly. There we go. How does that look? Okay, I think if we do that, and now let's attempt it. Presto. That works exactly as I was hoping. That works really, really well. That was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. There we go. So, right, what we are going to do is we're going to ensure that we get this connected on the right side, which is that one. Good. The tunnel we want is... Oh, apparently we can only have the two types. Where have the rest of the tunnels gone? Oh. Well, that's the tunnel we're taking then. And let's run that out like that. Up to, let's say, that point. That's awesome. That's a really good, smooth into the tunnel, smooth through the tunnel, and then straight out. Now what we need to do is we need to work out how to connect these lines, which I think, like this, is probably our best bet. There we go. And now just thinking, what about a train that has to come off this line and back onto that line? That was a stupid move. That was a very stupid move. Let's try that again. First of all, we need a crossover. 30-mile-per-hour crossovers. As per the usual. Now we can go ahead and do this. There we go. That's it. Okay, and the other issue we have is with this single bit of track that more than likely we're not going to use. So I'm actually just going to cut that bit of track back. There we go. That looks smooth. Okay, so we've got the exit out of the Washington area. Now all we do is we just run this all the way along. So this is going to be similar to how the track runs out over towards St. Louis. We've got a similar sort of track. So it's not running the passengers and freight all with up, up, down, down. It's up, down, or down, up for the freight, and then down, up for the passengers. Which I think works out a lot better. In theory, that should give us a lot more room to maneuver. Okay, now we're going to do it up to, I think, this point. Where's the fore end? Where does the fore end? There it is. Up to that point. Good. Now we take that smoothing tool and smooth up the edge of the hills. I feel like after the latest update, there is some changes to how the building works, the track is laid out and things like that. And it does seem a little bit... In some ways it's better, I think, but in some ways it's not quite as good. Smooth this out a little bit. That part's okay, just there. I could really do with a bunch of smoothing here. There we go. And here, I'd quite like to smooth this area up. Just try and get rid of that texture tile. Which is not happening, is it? That's close enough to getting rid of the texture tile, otherwise I'll be at it for years. That section needs a bit of smoothing. There we go. The rest of that's okay. I suppose we could just calmly smooth up. Look at that. Look at that texture tile. You can see it right there. That all looks okay. Very quick smooth down that side. There we go. Quick smooth along there just so it's not such a sharp embankment. Smooth that completely. Straight into the tunnel, straight out of the tunnel. That's fine. Smooth this. That's a problem. Autosave. And then we've got to smooth this. Let's really smooth this junction up. Make the hill look more like it should. Just contour, get those contour lines working correctly. There we go. That's better. And like that, and then across there. We'll just make that in a better embankment. There you go, so you can still tell it's an embankment. Straight through, straight out of this. And over here, we need to do some work. Just there. We'll narrow this down in a minute. That's not what I meant to press. There we go. And fix that up. Make this smaller, make the radius of that smaller, and fix this bit here. Awesome. Awesome. That's all done all the way up to this point. Now comes the hard part. How are we going to get this into Toronto? Obviously, we're going to have to peel it off in this direction. I wonder... Run it along this side, straight through... It's not going to be able to bridge, is it? It could. We could bring it elevated and then bridge it over. I don't fancy having huge, long sections of elevated bridges, though. Also, this road is going to need to be taken out to fix that. But if we were to run it along there... I suppose we run it along there, lift it up, bridge it over this section, and then start bringing it down straight over this road as it's twisting out. Yeah, as it's twisting out, maybe... So it turns around like that... Elevated over that, back down to ground level. Which means that we need to somehow manage to get it over this. Elevated. So somehow we need to get it onto this side. How are we going to get this onto this side? Or, hang on, we don't elevate it, we go ground level. Peel it off, and then what kind of angle do we need here? That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for that. We need that angle. Alright, to finish this episode off, let's have a quick look at what angle we're looking at on this. That sort of angle. That's the angle we're really looking at. And that will allow us to... That seems very, very difficult to do. That seems so much easier. You see, a junction like that seems so much easier. Okay. I suppose we could have the freight just cross over. That's a possibility. So we could literally just have the freight do a crossing. Because these aren't... I mean... Sure, there's some busy lines here, but... the amount of trains that are going to go forward through this, we have to have the freight crossing. So as long as we can keep a fairly high speed for the freight, we can have it cross over, not a problem. And then we can continue along the way. So that's what we're going to do in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on Transport Fever Series 2 or Season 2, The Great Lakes, and then Series 3, The Great Western Railway. Leave a comment in the comments box letting me know any ideas you have. And also, don't forget to support me on Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/ECGadget, and follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/ECGadget. I think that is a pretty good screenshot, giving us some idea of the work that we've done today. So I will take that. But yes, Patreon support would be massively, massively appreciated. Whether it's $1, whether it's $2, whether it's $5, whether it's $20, whether it's $100. I would really, really appreciate that support. That's all from me. That is starting to look really crazy. And I'll see you guys next time in Transport Fever Series 2, The Great Lakes.